friends! This month in art, we're going to be learning about one of the elements of art, and that element is line. We use lines all the time in art. We use lines every time we draw, paint, sketch, pretty much anything. Even when you write your name, you use lines. So let's learn a little bit more about lines today. Okay friends, we've been talking about the element of line. Today I want us to practice making some of the different kinds of lines that we could use in art. First of all, a horizontal line. Which direction would that go? Straight across or up and down? If you said it straight across, you're right. Horizontal is like the horizon. It goes this direction, from left to right. How about vertical? If you said straight up and down, you're right, from top to bottom. How about diagonal? There is a diagonal line right there on that, between those two words, oblique and diagonal. They can go that direction or this direction, but they're not straight up and down. They're kind of like a vertical line that's tipping over. How about parallel lines? What does parallel mean? It's like the railroad tracks, or sometimes you see these kind of lines on the road where there are two lines that are just a little bit apart, but they're going in the same direction. They could be going horizontal or vertical. How about perpendicular? Perpendicular is an interesting word. It means there's one line that's vertical and one line that's horizontal. Vertical, horizontal. All right, now curved lines. Any line that has a bend in it is a curved line. It could be like this. Let's make some curved lines. Circles are curved lines. Zigzags. Wavy. I think wavy lines are very relaxing. Curly. Curly. Or I like to call these loop-de-loop lines. They remind me of the roller coasters at the amusement park. Bumpy. Bumpy's kind of like wavy, except the bumps are close together. Scalloped. Does anyone know what scalloped is? Scalloped is kind of like the edge of lace or something fancy. Curved, straight, curve, straight, curve, straight, curve, straight. Dotted lines. They can be just dots, or they can be little short lines with a space between them. Swirling lines. I like making swirling lines because they remind me of cinnamon rolls. Spiral is similar. It could be like a spring spiraling down, or also it could be like a cinnamon roll swirling into the center. Okay, the last one is called cross-hatched. Sometimes artists use this to shade their pictures. They use what's called cross-hatching. And you might know it as something else that you've seen on Instagram or TikTok. What do you guys call this? You're right, if you said a hashtag. So a hashtag and a cross-hatched are the same things. They could go all kinds of directions. Great you guys have done an awesome job making all these different kinds of lines. Now you have a good idea of all the lines you could use on your art project. So on our poster, we learned that lines are made by a pointed tool. But you can also make lines with other things besides pointed tools. And one of the things you can make lines with is string. We can make lines out of string. So today we're going to use string or yarn to make lines. What we're going to do on this, turn your page over. You'll see these little marks on your page. You're going to cut those. Just cut to the end of the mark with your scissors. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is put our yarn on here, and we're going to make a pattern. If you want to make it really precise and perfect rectangles, and these are almost squares and these are rectangles, then you can weave it back and forth through the slits to make a grid. This is like a grid. Sometimes we use grids in math. So you can make these perfectly even rectangles and squares. Or if you want to be really creative, you can weave it to make just some random designs and shapes on your page out of yarn. After you get your yarn woven on here into whatever pattern you prefer, then the next part of this assignment is to fill each of the spaces on here with a different line pattern. And it could be anything. It can just be lines, or you can draw little pictures in there because we do use lines when we draw. So you can do that. So here's an example of one that a student made a few years ago. So they did the grid pattern, and then in each of the spaces they filled it in with color and with different line patterns. What kind of line patterns can you see on this piece of work? Right, I see zigzags, swirlies, diagonals, hearts, curly lines, straight lines, diagonal lines, zigzag lines, spiral lines, wavy lines. I see lots, bumpy lines, all kinds of great line patterns on this piece of work. Thank you, friends. I hope you have fun doing this. Okay, friends, if you decide that you want to make your grid pattern like this one, I'm going to show you how to do that. Or you can weave your yarn randomly to make a random pattern. But I'll show you how to make this grid. You take your yarn, stick it through one of the slits, and then just go across to the neighbor, and then go next door. If you keep going back and forth like this, around, you're gonna run out of yarn way too quick because it uses up a lot of yarn. So just go over to the next slit that's closest to this one, stick your yarn through this one, go across. Go to the neighbor, put your yarn in there, go across. And then which one's closest to this? I think this one would be the next one I would go to. Then I'm gonna go across horizontally. We already did the vertical lines. Next neighbor, closest neighbor, right here. Across. Try not to pull them too tight, because if you pull the yarn too tight, it will bend your paper like this. So you don't want to do that. Give it some slack. Across neighbor. Across. Let's see, I just have enough yarn. I have a little bit of yarn left over, but I got that grid pattern all nice on there. So now that I've done that, all I got to do is go back and draw some little pictures or line patterns in each one of these shapes and these spaces, and then you'll be done. I hope you have fun with this creative line project, a line design quilt. I think it kind of looks like a quilt with all the different patterns on it, so I'm going to call it that. Have fun making your line design quilt. See you next time.